My 7-year-old grandson, Liam, accidentally took my daughter-in-law Rebecca's work iPad to school. His teacher called me, her voice shaking. "Mrs. Sophia, you need to come to the school right now. Please, hurry." I rushed to Lincoln Elementary as fast as my old legs could carry me. When I got there, police cars were parked outside, their lights flashing like a warning. The principal took me to a back room, his face white as a sheet. An officer was standing there, holding the iPad in a sealed plastic evidence bag. "Ma'am," he said, his voice dead serious, "when the teacher tried to help your grandson with his homework, some files auto-opened. What we saw? You need to see this yourself." When I looked at that screen, I felt my whole world tilt. I'm talking about surveillance photos of people I'd never seen, spreadsheets with millions of dollars, and voice recordings that made my blood run cold. If you're watching this video right now, hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and tell me in the comments where you're listening from. I want to know how far this story reaches, because what happened to my family could happen to yours. That morning started like any other morning in my 68 years of life. I woke up to the sound of birds chirping outside my bedroom window and the familiar hum of the coffee maker I'd set the night before. I live in a small house on Maple Street, the same house where I raised my son William. The neighborhood is quiet, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone, where kids still ride bikes on the sidewalk and neighbors wave from their porches. I just poured my first cup of coffee, standing at the kitchen window watching Mrs. Chen across the street water her roses, when my phone rang. The sudden noise made me jump, and I spilled a little coffee on my worn floral apron. I grabbed a dishcloth, wiped my hands, and picked up the phone, my heart already beating a little faster. Something about a phone call before 8 a.m. never feels right. "Mrs. Sophia?" The voice on the other end was Miss Jennifer, Liam's second-grade teacher at Lincoln Elementary. But she didn't sound like herself. Her voice was shaking, breathless, like she'd just run a marathon or seen something terrible. "You need to come to the school immediately. It's about Liam. It's urgent. Very urgent." My heart clenched, like someone had wrapped a fist around it. 1,000 horrible thoughts flooded my mind all at once. Did Liam fall? Did he get hurt on the playground? Oh God, did another kid hurt him? What happened? I almost shouted into the phone, my voice cracking. "Is my grandson okay? Is he hurt?" He's not hurt," Miss Jennifer said, but her voice was full of something I couldn't identify. Fear? Confusion? "But you need to come right now, Mrs. Sophia. The police are here." The principal called them. "Just, please come as fast as you can." "The police?" My mind went blank. I didn't even say goodbye. I just hung up, grabbed my old cardigan from the hook by the door, and ran outside. I didn't turn off the stove. I didn't lock the door properly. I just ran. My neighbor, Mr. Patterson, was getting his newspaper and called out, "Everything okay, Sophia?" But I didn't answer. I couldn't. All I could think about was Liam, my sweet little Liam with his gap-toothed smile and messy brown hair. The boy who'd brought sunshine back into my life after I lost my husband 5 years ago. I flagged down a taxi on the corner. Something I never do because I'm too cheap, but this was an emergency. "Lincoln Elementary School," I told the driver, my voice shaking. "Please hurry." The driver, a young man with kind eyes, looked at me in the rearview mirror. "You okay, ma'am? You look pale." I just shook my head, clutching my purse in my lap, my knuckles white. Through the window, I watched the familiar streets blur past. The corner store where Liam and I buy ice cream on Fridays. The park where we feed the ducks. The library where we go every Saturday morning. Everything looked the same, but my world was falling apart. What could have happened? What could be so serious that the police were involved? When the taxi pulled up in front of the school, I saw them immediately. 2 police cars parked right at the entrance, their red and blue lights still flashing. A small crowd of parents had gathered near the gate, whispering to each other, their faces full of concern and curiosity. I caught fragments of their conversations as I pushed past. Police? 2nd grade? Some kind of device. Every word was like a punch to my gut. I ran through the front doors and nearly collided with Mrs. Patterson, the school secretary. "Oh, Sophia," she said, her eyes wide. "They're waiting for you in the principal's office. Go straight back." My legs felt like jelly as I walked down that long hallway. The walls were covered with children's artwork, colorful drawings of families and houses and sunshine, but all I could see was darkness. When I reached the office, I pushed open the door and saw Liam immediately. He was sitting in a chair that was too big for him, his little legs dangling off the ground, his SpongeBob backpack clutched to his chest like a shield. His eyes were red and puffy from crying, his face streaked with tears. When he saw me, his bottom lip started trembling all over again. "Grandma," he whispered, and my heart broke into a million pieces. I wanted to run to him, to scoop him up and tell him everything was going to be okay. But Principal Evans stepped forward, blocking my path. He was a tall man, usually friendly and warm, but today his face was grave, worried. Behind him stood 2 police officers, one older man with gray hair and a stern expression, and a younger woman with her hand resting on her belt. "Mrs. Sophia Martinez," the older officer said, stepping forward. "I'm Officer James Richardson, and this is Officer Emma Collins. We need to speak with you about a very serious matter." "What's going on?" I demanded, my voice coming out louder than I intended. "Why are you scaring my grandson? What happened?" Officer Richardson held up a clear plastic evidence bag, and inside it was Rebecca's iPad, the one she uses for work. I recognized it immediately from the pink case with the crack in the corner. "This device was brought to school by your grandson," he said. When his teacher tried to help him access his homework assignment, some files opened automatically. The content of those files is extremely concerning. My mind raced. Rebecca, my daughter-in-law, my son William's wife, worked as a senior accountant at Titan Industries, one of the biggest manufacturing companies in the state. She was always working late, always stressed, always glued to that iPad. But what could be on there that would bring the police to an elementary school? "I don't understand," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "What kind of files?" Officer Collins exchanged a look with her partner, then turned to me. "Ma'am, we need you to come with us to a private room. What we need to show you, it's not appropriate for the hallway." They led me to a small conference room off the main office. Principal Evans came too, and Miss Jennifer, who looked like she was about to cry. Officer Richardson carefully placed the iPad on the table and opened it. The screen came to life, and what I saw made my blood run cold. Photos, dozens of them. Surveillance-style images of men in suits entering and leaving buildings, getting into expensive cars, meeting in restaurants. Timestamps and location markers on each one. Then spreadsheets, columns and columns of numbers that made my head spin. Millions of dollars. Transfers between accounts I'd never heard of. Foreign banks. Shell companies. And then audio files, dozens of them, each one labeled with a date and initials I didn't recognize. Officer Richardson clicked on one of the audio files. A man's voice filled the room, deep and cold. "The inspectors are scheduled for Thursday. Make sure the falsified reports are ready. If anyone asks questions, they'll have an accident. We've done it before." I felt like I was going to be sick. "What? What is this?" I whispered. "We believe," Officer Collins said carefully, "that your daughter-in-law has been conducting a private investigation. These files contain evidence of major financial fraud, environmental violations, and possibly worse. The question is she involved in these crimes, or is she trying to expose them?" My mind couldn't process it. Rebecca? Quiet, hard-working Rebecca who made pancakes for Liam every Sunday morning? Rebecca who volunteered at the food bank and never forgot my birthday? Was she a criminal, or was she in danger? "I need to sit down," I said, and someone pulled out a chair for me. My whole body was shaking. I thought about this morning, how normal everything had seemed. Rebecca had dropped Liam off at my house at 7 a.m. like she did every morning before work. "Mom Sophia," she'd said. She always called me Mom Sophia. "Can you make sure Liam brings his math homework? It's in his blue folder." But Liam must have grabbed the wrong iPad from the kitchen counter. Rebecca had 2, one personal, one for work. In his rush to get his backpack ready, my sweet little boy had taken the wrong one. And now we were here, in this cold room, with police officers and evidence bags and the terrifying possibility that my family was caught up in something dangerous. "Mrs. Martinez," Principal Evans said gently, "we've already contacted your son William. He's on his way, but we need to secure this device and begin an investigation immediately." Officer Richardson was typing something on his phone, his face grim. "We're bringing in detectives from the Financial Crimes Unit. If what's on this iPad is real and preliminary analysis suggests it is, we're looking at one of the biggest corporate fraud cases this state has ever seen." I looked through the glass window of the conference room, and saw Liam still sitting in that too big chair, now with a female officer kneeling beside him, trying to make him smile. He looked so small, so scared. He was only 7 years old. At 7, he should be worrying about spelling tests and whether he'd get picked for kickball at recess. "Not this, never this. Can I take him home?" I asked, my voice breaking. "He doesn't need to be here for this. He's just a baby." Officer Collins nodded. "Yes, ma'am. We'll need to ask him some basic questions, just about how he got the iPad, nothing more, but then you can take him. However," she paused, her expression serious. "Mrs. Martinez, if your daughter-in-law is in possession of evidence against dangerous people, there's a possibility that your family could be at risk. We're going to recommend police protection until we figure out exactly what we're dealing with." Police protection. Dangerous people. Risk. The words swirled in my head like a nightmare. This morning I was worried about whether I had enough milk for Liam's cereal. Now I was being told we might need police protection. Just then the door burst open and my son William rushed in. He was still wearing his construction company uniform, dust on his boots, panic written all over his face. "Mom, what's going on? Where's Liam?" The school called and said police. He stopped when he saw the iPad on the table, the officers, the evidence bag. "What the hell is happening?" I stood up and grabbed his arm. "William, sit down. You need to hear this." For the next 20 minutes, the officers explained everything to him. The iPad, the files, the evidence of fraud, and worse. I watched my son's face go from confusion to shock to anger to fear. He kept shaking his head, running his hands through his hair, the same gesture he'd done since he was a little boy when he was stressed. Rebecca wouldn't. "She couldn't be involved in something illegal," he said, but his voice wavered. "She's a good person. She's a good mom." "Mr. Martinez," Officer Richardson said carefully, "we're not making any accusations about your wife yet. But we need to bring her in for questioning immediately. Do you know where she is right now?" William pulled out his phone with shaking hands. "She's at work. At Titan Industries downtown. She had a big meeting today with the executives. He stopped, his eyes widening. "Oh my God, what if she's in danger? What if these people she's been investigating know?" That's when it hit me, the real terror of the situation. If Rebecca had been secretly gathering evidence against powerful people, people who'd threatened violence in those audio recordings, and they found out. I thought of my daughter-in-law's face this morning, how tired she'd looked, how she'd hugged Liam extra tight before leaving. Had she known she was playing with fire? Officer Collins was already on her radio. "We need units to Titan Industries headquarters immediately. Potential witness or suspect. Rebecca Martinez. Approach with caution. Witness or suspect." William stood up, his voice rising. "She's not a suspect. She's my wife. If she gathered this evidence, it's because she's trying to do the right thing." "We don't know that yet, sir," Officer Richardson said firmly. "Until we question her, we can't be certain of her involvement or her motives." I looked at the iPad screen again, at those photos and spreadsheets and audio files. A terrible thought crept into my mind. What if Rebecca had been living a double life this whole time? What if the sweet daughter-in-law I thought I knew was actually someone else entirely? But then I remembered the way she looked at Liam, the way she'd cried when William proposed, the way she'd held my hand at my husband's funeral. That wasn't fake. I knew it in my bones. Whatever Rebecca was involved in, she was trying to do the right thing. She had to be, but doing the right thing, I was learning, could be the most dangerous thing of all. They let me take Liam home, but nothing felt normal anymore. Officer Collins drove us in an unmarked car while William stayed behind to coordinate with the detectives who were heading to Rebecca's office. In the back seat, Liam sat pressed against me, his little hand gripping mine so tight it hurt. He hadn't said a word since we left the school. "Grandma," he finally whispered as we pulled onto Maple Street, "is Mommy in trouble because of me? Because I took her iPad?" I pulled him close, kissing the top of his head. "No, baby. No. You didn't do anything wrong. You just made a little mistake, that's all. Grown-ups make mistakes too." But inside, my heart was breaking. Because the truth was, if Liam hadn't taken that iPad to school, we might never have known what Rebecca was involved in. We might have stayed blind until it was too late, until something terrible happened. Officer Collins walked us to the door, her eyes scanning the street like she was looking for threats. "Mrs. Martinez, I'm going to have a patrol car stationed on your block for the next few days. Just as a precaution. If you see anything unusual, anyone watching the house, strange cars, anything, you call me immediately." She handed me her card. I nodded, clutching the card like a lifeline. When I got inside, I locked the door, bolted it, and put the chain on. Then I closed all the curtains, even though it was the middle of the day. Liam stood in the living room, looking lost and small. "Are you hungry, sweetheart?" I asked, trying to make my voice sound normal. "Want me to make you a grilled cheese?" He shook his head. "I want Mommy. I wanted her too." I wanted Rebecca to walk through that door and explain everything, to tell us this was all a huge misunderstanding. But my phone stayed silent. William hadn't called. The police hadn't called. The not knowing was eating me alive. I made Liam sit on the couch and turned on his favorite cartoons, but he just stared at the screen without really watching. I went to the kitchen and tried to keep my hands busy, washing dishes, wiping counters, organizing the junk drawer, anything to stop my mind from spiraling. But I kept seeing those files on the iPad, those surveillance photos, those spreadsheets with millions of dollars, those audio recordings talking about accidents for people who ask too many questions. Around 2 in the afternoon, my phone finally rang. It was William, and his voice sounded hollow, defeated. "Mom, they arrested her." The room spun. I gripped the kitchen counter to steady myself. "What? They arrested Rebecca?" "She's being held for questioning. They won't let me see her." The detective said, "Mom, they said the files on that iPad show evidence of a massive embezzlement scheme at Titan Industries. We're talking about $50 million over 3 years. Falsified environmental reports, bribed inspectors, and Rebecca's name is all over the financial documents." "No," I said firmly. "No, William. Rebecca wouldn't steal money. You know her. I know her. There has to be another explanation. That's what I keep telling them." His voice cracked. "But her signature is on transfer authorizations. Her login credentials were used to move money between accounts. They're saying she was the one cooking the books, that she was the mastermind behind the whole operation." I sank into a kitchen chair, my legs giving out. This couldn't be happening. Not Rebecca. Not the woman who clipped grocery coupons and bought Liam's clothes at thrift stores because she said it was wasteful to spend too much on kids who grow so fast. That woman was embezzling $50 million. It didn't make sense. "Where are you now?" I asked, still at the police station. "They want to question me too. Ask me if I knew anything about Rebecca's activities." "Mom, I didn't know. I swear to God I had no idea." His voice broke, and I heard him crying. My strong, tough son who never cried. What am I going to tell Liam? How do I explain to my 7-year-old that his mother is being accused of being a criminal? "You don't," I said fiercely. "Not yet. Not until we know the whole truth. William, listen to me. I don't care what those documents say. I don't believe Rebecca did this. Something else is going on here." But even as I said it, doubt crept in. How well did we really know Rebecca? She'd come into William's life 4 years ago, and they'd gotten married fast, within 6 months. At the time, I'd thought it was romantic. Now I wondered if I'd missed warning signs. She'd always been private about her past, about her family. She'd said they were estranged, that she didn't like to talk about it. William and I had respected that, but maybe we shouldn't have. Maybe we should have asked more questions. After I hung up with William, I sat at the kitchen table for a long time, my mind racing. Then I remembered something. Rebecca's home office upstairs. She had a small desk in the spare bedroom where she sometimes worked on weekends. I'd never paid much attention to it, never thought to look through her things. But now, I checked on Liam. He'd fallen asleep on the couch, exhausted from crying and stress. I grabbed the baby monitor from the closet. Yes, I still had one from when Liam was little, and I used it when he napped at my house, and took it upstairs with me. Rebecca's desk was neat, organized. There was a cup full of pens, a stack of file folders, a framed photo of her and William on their wedding day. They looked so happy in that picture, so full of hope. I felt like I was violating her privacy, but I had to know. I had to understand. I started going through the drawers. Bills, receipts, nothing unusual. But then, in the bottom drawer, I found a locked metal box. My heart raced. I searched the desk for a key, but couldn't find one. Then I remembered. Rebecca kept a spare key ring in the kitchen, in the junk drawer. I ran downstairs, grabbed it, and sure enough, there was a small key that looked like it might fit. Back upstairs, my hands shaking, I unlocked the box. Inside were documents. Lots of them. I pulled them out and spread them on the desk, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. Bank statements for accounts I'd never heard of. Copies of emails between Rebecca and someone named Marcus Chen. Legal documents about something called whistleblower protection. And then, at the bottom, a flash drive with a label that made my blood run cold. Backup evidence. If anything happens to me, give to FBI. Oh my God. Rebecca wasn't the criminal. She was trying to expose the criminals. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the papers. I grabbed my phone and called William back. "You need to tell the police to look for a flash drive in Rebecca's office," I said rapidly. "And tell them about whistleblower protection. William, she's not the bad guy. She's been investigating the fraud at Titan Industries. She's been gathering evidence." "How do you know that?" William asked, his voice suddenly alert. "I found documents in her desk at home. I stopped. Through the baby monitor, I heard something downstairs, the sound of my front door opening, but I'd locked it. I'd bolted it and put the chain on. "Mom, you still there?" William's voice came through the phone. "Someone's in my house," I whispered, my heart hammering. I quickly gathered the documents and flash drive, shoving them back in the box. Downstairs, I heard heavy footsteps, male voices, more than one person. "Get out of there right now," William said urgently. "I'm calling 911, but there was nowhere to go." I was on the second floor, and Liam was downstairs, asleep on the couch. I couldn't leave him. I grabbed the metal box and crept to the top of the stairs, my whole body trembling. 2 men in dark suits stood in my living room. One of them was standing over Liam, looking down at him. The other was going through my things, opening drawers, searching. "Where is it?" the one searching said. "The wife said the old lady might have it." "Check upstairs," the other replied. I made a split-second decision. I ran back to the bedroom, locked the door, and shoved the metal box under the bed. Then I grabbed my phone and texted William. "2 men broke in. Get police here now. I'm hiding upstairs with the evidence." I heard footsteps on the stairs, heavy, deliberate. I looked around the room frantically for a weapon and grabbed the lamp from the nightstand, yanking the cord from the wall. Then I ducked into the closet, pulling the door almost closed, leaving just a crack so I could see. The bedroom door handle jiggled. Then a loud bang as someone kicked it. The flimsy lock gave way immediately, and the door flew open. One of the men entered, tall and muscular, with cold eyes. He started searching the room, tearing through drawers, checking under the bed. My heart stopped when his hand reached under the bed and pulled out the metal box. He opened it, saw the flash drive, and smiled. "Found it." "No," I said, stepping out of the closet before I could stop myself. "You put that down right now." The man turned, surprised. Then he laughed. "Old lady, you're making a big mistake. Just go back to watching your cartoons and forget you saw us." "My grandson is downstairs," I said, my voice shaking but determined. "You leave him alone." The man's expression hardened. "Your grandson is fine. But you need to understand something. Your daughter-in-law made a very stupid decision when she started digging into things that don't concern her. Now she's going to pay for it. And if you don't stay out of this, you'll pay too." Before I could respond, I heard sirens. The man cursed, grabbed the metal box, and ran downstairs. I heard the front door slam, then car tires screeching. By the time I made it downstairs, they were gone. Liam was awake now, crying, terrified. I scooped him up and held him tight just as 3 police cars pulled up outside, their lights flashing. Officer Collins burst through my broken front door, gun drawn, followed by 4 other officers. "They're gone," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "They took the evidence. They took the flash drive." But even as I said it, I realized something. I still had my phone. And before the men had arrived, I'd been looking at those documents. I'd taken photos. Not of everything, but of some of the most important pages. The emails between Rebecca and Marcus Chen, The whistleblower protection documents. It wasn't the flash drive, but it was something. Officer Collins holstered her weapon and came to me, her face grave. "Mrs. Martinez, you and your grandson need to come with us. Right now. It's not safe here." "What about Rebecca?" I demanded. "You need to let her go. She's not the criminal. She's the one trying to expose them." "We know," Officer Collins said quietly. "We figured it out about an hour ago. Your daughter-in-law has been working undercover with the FBI for the past 6 months. She's a cooperating witness in a federal investigation into Titan Industries." The world tilted. "What?" She couldn't tell anyone, not even her husband. "The people she's investigating, they're dangerous. They've killed before to protect their operation." When that iPad showed up at the school, it blew her cover wide open. I sank onto the couch, still holding Liam, trying to process this. Rebecca had been working with the FBI. She'd been risking her life to expose criminals, and she'd done it, all in secret, carrying that burden alone, unable to tell the people who loved her. "Where is she now?" I asked. "Protective custody. We're moving her to a safe location. And we need to move you and your grandson too. Those men who broke in here, they work for Marcus Chen. He's the CFO of Titan Industries and the ringleader of the whole operation. If they were willing to break into your house in broad daylight, they're desperate, which means they're dangerous." An officer was helping Liam gather some of his things. His favorite stuffed bear, a change of clothes. My grandson looked at me with huge, scared eyes. "Grandma, I don't understand what's happening." I didn't know what to tell him. How do you explain to a 7-year-old that his mom is a hero who's fighting bad guys, but now the whole family has to hide because those bad guys want revenge? "Officer." Collins knelt down in front of Liam, her voice gentle. "Hey there, buddy. Your mom is okay, and you're going to see her real soon. But first, we're going to take you and your grandma on a little adventure. You ever stayed in a hotel?" Liam shook his head. "Well, you're going to get to stay in a really cool one. With a pool and everything. How does that sound?" Liam looked at me for confirmation. I forced a smile and nodded. "It'll be fun, sweetheart. Like a vacation." But it wasn't a vacation. It was witness protection. My family had gone from normal, boring, everyday life to the center of a federal criminal investigation in less than 12 hours. Because Liam had grabbed the wrong iPad. They took us to a hotel on the outskirts of the city, a place I'd never been. It was nice, nicer than anywhere I'd stayed in years, but it felt like a prison. 2 federal agents were stationed outside our door. We couldn't leave. We couldn't make phone calls except on a monitored line. We couldn't tell anyone where we were. William joined us that evening, looking like he'd aged 10 years in one day. He hugged Liam so tight I thought he might never let go. Then he pulled me aside while Liam was watching TV with the volume turned up. "I talked to Rebecca," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "For 10 minutes, with federal agents listening to every word. She apologized for lying to me. She said she wanted to tell me so many times, but couldn't risk it. She said she loves us, and she's so sorry she put us in danger." Tears ran down his cheeks. "She's been living with this fear for 6 months, Mom. Every day, going to work with people who've committed murder, who would kill her if they found out what she was doing. And she did it because 3 years ago, she discovered the fraud by accident. She saw what they were doing, stealing money, dumping toxic waste that was making people sick, bribing government officials. And she couldn't just ignore it. She tried to report it through normal channels, but they buried it. So she went to the FBI. I thought about Rebecca, quiet, kind Rebecca, carrying that weight alone, making small talk at family dinners while secretly gathering evidence against murderers, tucking Liam into bed every night while knowing she might not come home the next day. "She's the bravest person I've ever known," I said softly. William nodded. "The trial starts in 2 weeks. She's the star witness. Her testimony, combined with the evidence she gathered, will put away Marcus Chen and 6 other executives. But," he paused, his face darkening, "Chen has connections. He has money. The FBI thinks he's going to try to eliminate Rebecca before she can testify. They'll protect her, I said firmly. They have to. They're trying. But Mom, these people got into your house in the middle of the day. They have resources. They have people on the inside, cops, judges, who knows? The FBI is doing everything they can, but... He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. We both knew Rebecca was in terrible danger. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in the hotel bed, listening to Liam's soft breathing from the other bed and William's snoring from the pull-out couch. Through the window, I could see the parking lot lights and the shadow of the agent pacing outside our door. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. My heart jumped. I almost didn't open it, but curiosity won. The message said, "Mrs. Martinez, this is Agent Sarah Kim, FBI. Your daughter-in-law asked me to tell you something. She said to tell you she's sorry for the lies, but she needs you to know. Everything she did to protect Liam's future. The toxic waste from Titan Industries has been dumping into the river where children swim. Kids are getting sick. She couldn't let it continue. She said you taught her that standing up for what's right is more important than being safe. Thank you for raising a son who married a woman like her." Tears streamed down my face. I'd never told Rebecca about my past, about how I'd once stood up to my own employer 30 years ago when I discovered they were stealing from elderly patients at the nursing home where I worked. I'd reported them, testified against them, lost my job and my reputation. But I'd done the right thing, and somehow Rebecca had known. Maybe William had told her. Maybe she'd just sensed it. I typed back, "Tell her we love her. Tell her we're proud of her. Tell her to stay strong." 3 dots appeared, showing someone was typing. Then, "She says she loves you too. She says you're the mother she never had. And she promises she's going to come home." I held the phone to my chest and cried silently, careful not to wake Liam. Rebecca had to survive this. She had to testify, put those criminals away, and come home to her family. She had to, because heroes don't die in the end. They win. At least that's what I told myself as I finally drifted off to sleep. Praying tomorrow would bring good news instead of more nightmares. The next 2 weeks felt like living in a dream, or maybe a nightmare that wouldn't end. We stayed in that hotel, with federal agents rotating shifts outside our door. Liam missed school. William took extended leave from work, and I spent my days trying to keep my grandson's spirits up while my own heart was breaking with worry. Every day, I'd ask Agent Collins for updates on Rebecca. "She's safe," was all she'd say. "She's preparing for trial. You'll see her soon." But soon felt like forever. Liam started having nightmares. He'd wake up crying, calling for his mommy. I'd hold him and rock him like I did when he was a baby, singing the old lullabies I'd sung to William all those years ago. "Hush, little baby, don't say a word. Grandma's going to buy you a mockingbird." My voice would crack. But I'd keep singing until he fell back asleep. William was falling apart too, though he tried to hide it. I'd catch him staring out the window for hours, or pacing the hotel room at 3 a.m., his phone clutched in his hand like he was waiting for terrible news. On the 10th day, Agent Kim came to visit us. She sat down in the hotel room's little chair and looked at us with serious eyes. "Tomorrow is the trial," she said. "Rebecca will testify. We have the courtroom locked down, metal detectors, extra security, plainclothes agents in the gallery. But I need you to know that Marcus Chen's lawyers are good. They're going to try to tear her apart on the stand. They're going to call her a liar, say she fabricated evidence to cover her own crimes. But that's not true," William shouted, jumping to his feet. "She has proof. She has the flash drive, the documents." "We recovered most of the evidence from your mother's house," Agent Kim interrupted. "The men who broke in took the flash drive, but your mother's photos of the documents were enough to get warrants. We raided Titan Industries and found backup servers with everything we needed. But Chen's lawyers are still going to make this ugly." I thought of Rebecca facing those lawyers alone, defending herself against people who were paid millions to destroy her credibility. "Can we be there?" I asked. "Can we be in the courtroom?" Agent Kim hesitated. "It's risky. If Chen's people see you there..." "I don't care," I said firmly. "That girl needs to look out into that courtroom and see her family. She needs to know she's not alone." William nodded. "We're going." Agent Kim looked at us for a long moment, then smiled. Okay, but Liam stays here with protective detail. We're not bringing a 7-year-old into this. The next morning, they drove us to the federal courthouse in a car with tinted windows. The building was huge, imposing, with marble columns and stone steps. News vans were everywhere, reporters shouting questions at everyone who walked by. Agent Kim and 3 other agents surrounded us, rushing us through the crowd and into the building through a side entrance. Inside, the courthouse was cold and echoing. Our footsteps clicked on the polished floors as they led us to Courtroom 6. We went through metal detectors, and then we were inside, a big room with wooden benches, a judge's bench at the front, and the jury box off to the side. We sat in the 3rd row. I could see the defendant's table where Marcus Chen sat in an expensive suit, looking calm and confident, surrounded by 4 lawyers. He was a handsome man in his 50s, with silver hair and a cold smile. This was the man who'd ordered people to break into my home, who'd threatened my family, who'd stolen millions and poisoned children. Then the prosecutor stood up. The prosecution calls Rebecca Martinez to the stand. A door opened and Rebecca walked in. I almost didn't recognize her. She'd lost weight, a lot of it. Her face was pale. Her eyes had dark circles under them. But she walked with her head high, her shoulders back. She wore a simple blue dress and no jewelry. She looked terrified but determined. When she passed our row, her eyes met mine. I saw them fill with tears, but she blinked them away and gave me the smallest smile. Then she looked at William, and her whole face crumpled for just a second before she forced herself to stay strong. She was sworn in and sat down. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Ms. Thompson, started asking her questions. Rebecca's voice was quiet at first, shaky, but it grew stronger as she talked. She explained how she'd discovered the fraud 3 years ago, how she'd tried to report it internally and been shut down, how she'd gone to the FBI because she couldn't stay silent, how she'd spent 6 months living a double life, pretending to be part of Chen's operation while secretly copying files, recording conversations, gathering evidence. Why did you do it? Ms. Thompson asked. Why risk your life, your family, everything? Rebecca looked directly at the jury. Because Titan Industries was dumping toxic waste into the Clearwater River. The same river where kids swim in the summer, where families fish. We started seeing reports of children getting sick, rashes, respiratory problems, even cancer. And when environmental inspectors came, Chen and his team would bribe them or show them falsified reports. They were poisoning children to save money. I have a 7-year-old son. I couldn't just do nothing. Her voice broke on the last words, and she wiped her eyes. I was crying too, and so was half the courtroom. Then Chen's lawyer stood up for cross-examination. He was a shark, aggressive, cruel. He accused Rebecca of embezzling the money herself, of fabricating evidence, of being a scorned employee making up lies for revenge. Isn't it true, Ms. Martinez, he said with a sneer, that you were passed over for a promotion last year? That you were angry at Mr. Chen and wanted to destroy him? No, Rebecca said firmly. That's not true. Isn't it true that you have financial problems? That you and your husband were behind on your mortgage? We were behind for 2 months after my husband was injured at work and missed time, Rebecca said, her voice steady. But we caught up. This isn't about money. This is about doing what's right. The lawyer kept attacking, kept trying to rattle her, but Rebecca didn't break. She answered every question calmly, referring to the evidence, to the documents, to the recordings. She was magnificent. When she finally stepped down from the stand 3 hours later, she looked exhausted. But she'd done it. She'd told the truth. The trial continued for 3 more days. Other witnesses testified, FBI agents, forensic accountants, even a former Titan Industries employee who'd quit because he couldn't stomach what they were doing. The evidence was overwhelming. On the 4th day, the jury came back after only 2 hours of deliberation. We were back in the courtroom, me, William, and this time, with special permission, Liam. Agent Kim had agreed to let him come for the verdict. He sat between us, holding both our hands, his little legs swinging nervously. Has the jury reached a verdict? The judge asked. We have, Your Honor, the jury foreman said. In the case of United States versus Marcus Chen and others on the charge of wire fraud, how do you find? Guilty. On the charge of embezzlement? Guilty. On the charge of environmental crimes? Guilty, the courtroom erupted. Chen's face went white. His lawyers started shouting objections. The judge banged his gavel, but all I could see was Rebecca, sitting at the prosecutor's table, her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking with sobs of relief. On the charge of conspiracy to commit murder? Guilty, William was crying. I was crying. Even Liam, who didn't fully understand what was happening, had tears running down his cheeks. The judge sentenced Marcus Chen to 35 years in federal prison. The other executives got sentences ranging from 15 to 25 years. It was over. They'd lost. Rebecca had won. After the sentencing, they let us see her. We were taken to a small private room, and then Rebecca walked in. For a moment, we all just stood there, staring at each other. Then Liam broke free from my hand and ran to her. "Mommy!" he screamed, throwing himself into her arms. Rebecca caught him and sank to the floor, holding him so tight. "My baby," she sobbed. "My sweet baby. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I missed you," Liam cried. "I missed you so much. Are the bad guys gone? Can you come home now?" "Yes," Rebecca said, kissing his face over and over. "Yes, baby. The bad guys are gone. Mommy can come home." William knelt beside them, wrapping his arms around both of them. I stood watching, tears streaming down my face, my heart so full it hurt. This was my family, broken, battered, but still together. Rebecca looked up at me over Liam's head. "Mom Sophia," she whispered, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything I put you through." I knelt down too, joining the group hug. "You have nothing to apologize for," I said fiercely. "You're a hero. You saved lives. You did the right thing, even when it was hard, even when it was dangerous. I'm so proud of you." We stayed like that for a long time, the four of us holding each other on the floor of that little room, crying and laughing and just being together. 3 months later, life started to feel normal again. Rebecca got a new job. The FBI offered her a position as a consultant, helping them investigate corporate fraud. The pay was good, the work was meaningful, and she could do most of it from home. William went back to his construction job. The company even gave him a bonus and a promotion when they heard what our family had been through. "For weathering the storm," his boss said. Liam went back to school. Miss Jennifer gave him a hero's welcome, and his classmates thought it was the coolest thing ever that his mom had helped catch bad guys. He was the most popular kid in 2nd grade for about a month. And me? I went back to my little house on Maple Street. They'd fixed the broken door and installed a fancy new security system, courtesy of the FBI. I went back to my morning coffee, my afternoon walks, my Saturday trips to the library with Liam, but things were different too. Better. Rebecca started coming over for lunch every Thursday, just the two of us. We'd sit at my kitchen table, and she'd talk about things she'd never shared before, her difficult childhood, her estranged parents, the loneliness she'd felt carrying her secret. And I'd listen and hold her hand and tell her she was never alone again. Every Sunday, the whole family came for dinner. We'd gather around my old dining table, the same one where I'd raised William, where we'd celebrated birthdays and holidays and ordinary Tuesdays. Rebecca would bring dessert, William would grill burgers in the backyard, and Liam would tell us elaborate stories about his adventures at school. One Sunday evening, about 6 months after the trial, we were all sitting on the back porch watching the sunset. Liam was chasing fireflies in the yard, his laughter ringing out in the warm air. Rebecca and William sat on the porch swing, his arm around her shoulders, her head resting on his chest. "You know what?" Rebecca said softly. "I was so afraid I'd lose everything. My family, my freedom, my life. But instead, I found out what really matters. And I found out I'm stronger than I ever knew." William kissed the top of her head. "We're all stronger. This whole thing, it was hell. But we got through it together." Liam ran up to the porch, breathless and grinning, holding his cupped hands carefully. "Grandma, look!" I caught one. I leaned over, and he opened his hands just a little. Inside was a firefly, its light blinking on and off. "That's beautiful, sweetheart," I said. "Now you better let it go so it can find its family." Liam opened his hands wide, and the firefly lifted into the air, joining dozens of others dancing in the twilight. He watched it go, then climbed into my lap, even though he was getting too big for that, and snuggled against me. "Grandma," he said, "are we safe now? Are the bad guys really gone?" I looked at Rebecca and William, at my beautiful family who'd survived something terrible and come out whole. I looked at the fireflies lighting up the yard, at the stars starting to appear in the darkening sky, at the home I'd built with love and sacrifice and stubborn determination to protect the people I loved. "Yes, baby," I said, holding him close. "We're safe. The bad guys are gone, and we're all together. Everything is gonna be okay." And for the first time in months, I truly believed it. Our nightmare was over. Our happy ending had begun. The story you've just heard has been modified in names and locations to protect the identity of those involved. We don't tell it to judge, but in the hope that someone will listen and learn something important. That doing the right thing isn't always easy, but it's always worth it. That family is everything. And that sometimes the heroes don't wear capes, they're just ordinary people who refuse to stay silent when they see something wrong. If you were in my place, what would you do? Would you have had the courage to support your family through something this terrifying? Would you have fought for the truth, even when it seemed like the whole world was against you? I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments. And if this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Share it with someone who needs to hear a story about courage, about standing up for what's right, about love that doesn't give up. Because at the end of the day, that's what matters most. Not money, not success, not even safety, but love, truth, and family. God bless you all, and remember, no matter how dark the night gets, the sun always rises. Hold on to hope, hold on to each other, and never ever stop fighting for what's right. Thank you for staying with me until the very end. On the end screen, you'll find 2 more incredible stories from this channel that I know you're gonna love. Until next time, take care of yourselves and the people you love. The end.